All right, so we're going to continue the carnivore walk and talk style, and I'm going to keep it on the psychological and philosophical aspects of doing the carnivore diet as well. So, years and years ago, I came across a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. I believe it was by Paulo Freire, if I'm pronouncing his last name right, and read that book, and I heard some commentary on it by a gentleman named Vaclav Havel, who was the first president of Czechoslovakia after communism fell in that country. And one of the things that he was talking about was, I think he was focusing on this aspect of teaching, where there's one kind of teaching where the teacher basically gives the students information. It's basically pre-digested information, already thought about. This is what you need to know, memorize it, and then later on you can regurgitate it to me on a test, or tell me that you prove to me that you read it or that you understand it in the way that I've given it to you. So that was one way. What he was proposing and what he was talking about in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, what he was commentating on, is teaching so that other people have the same privilege that you did as a teacher, as a writer, as just a human being in the world, to come to the same conclusions or even different conclusions, but the ability to come to the same conclusions as you did, make the same mistakes as you did, and to be free to explore all the ideas without you simply handing them something to give back, already thought out, already established. So I guess if you wanted to make an analogy, it would be like, instead of handing someone a pre-made dinner, you tell them what you want them to make or the idea that you want them to make, and then you let them try to make it. You let them put the ingredients together, taste it as they go, and figure out all the ways that they can either make it better, come to the same taste that you did when you made it, whatever the case may be, but they get to explore it on their own. They're not just told, here's the recipe, follow it to the letter, and this is what you're going to get. So, how does this apply to the carnivore diet? So, what I see a lot online, and I try to apply this always to myself, is I see a lot of, what do I want to call it? I don't want to call it judgment. Well, there is a lot of judgment. There's a lot of, quite frankly, there's a lot of petty insults going back and forth even between vegans, um, carnivore, whatever the group might be. But I see a lot of things that, for me, detracts from what I started carnivore for, which is just to feel better, to get my health back to where I want it to be, to feel good, spend time with my family, just do the things in life that I want to do. And I'm not interested in the schools of thought warring with each other, making fun of each other, all those things. But having said that, those comments by Vaclav Havel come from a place where he was experiencing oppression. His country, his people were experiencing oppression. And so part of the reason he's talking about this is because he wants freedom of thought. He wants people to explore their lives, explore thought, figure out what is important, what works for them, and not to be just given something and forced to believe it, forced to do it the way that they're told to. So when I see things on YouTube or people talking about carnivore or even vegans talking about being vegan, and there's this idea that you've finally found something that you love, and that's wonderful. It's a great feeling, but there's a tendency for people, when they find something that they love that speaks to them, they think is the truth, there's a tendency for them to want to spoon feed it and force it to other people as if they had already explored and found it themselves, just the way you were allowed to find it yourself. there's nothing wrong with sharing what you think is the correct path, but I think there is something wrong when you've been allowed to find your own path freely, to make your own mistakes, and to come to the conclusion of this is right for me. There's something wrong with taking that away from someone else and just saying, no, 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 I've done all the work. This is what you need to do. You don't need to think, just do it. And if you don't do it, you're wrong. I don't think that's helpful for the person trying to legitimately help other people by spreading the message. And I don't think it's helpful for people who might otherwise be open to your message but get turned off because you're trying to basically jam it down their throat and tell them what to do. So this is something huge I find in parenting as well. And that's kind of how I look at it in terms of speaking to other people about what my diet is like, especially in the framework of being type 1 diabetic. But with my kids, one thing I'm extremely cognizant of is letting them make mistakes. In other words, I'm not going to tell them, hey, I'm such and such many years old, I've done this, you will listen to me because this is the right way. They need to make their own mistakes, they need to explore their life. My job, as I see it, and if you disagree, I'd love to hear it, but my job, as I see it as a parent, is to number one, protect them from big mistakes that could hurt them or change the course of their life or hurt someone else. That's, I think, a given. I think that's pretty obvious. But two is to be a safety net for them while they make mistakes, while they learn, while they figure out who they are, and they're given the freedom to do everything that I had the freedom to do to figure out what was important to me, who I am. And guess what? I'm going to be 51 years old and I still haven't figured out a lot of life. So, how dare I go to my children and say, you must do things this way? This is what I've learned. This is how it is. That is the height of arrogance, in my opinion. So, and it's also fun for me to watch them find new things that I never found, to see things in life that I didn't see. They teach me things every day. They teach me how to be a parent. They teach me to be a good person. They teach me how to be a friend, all kinds of different things. And so I think other people also, maybe someone doesn't believe the carnivore diet is the correct way. What can I learn from their journey and what they're seeing? And how does that apply to me? It doesn't mean I don't have to be carnivore. It doesn't mean I want to be vegan if someone finds value in being a vegan. But what can I learn from them? I'm open-minded to what their path is because there was a point when I was vegetarian a long time ago, and it was actually before I was diabetic. But I tried that. I tried all kinds of different ways of eating. And if someone had just come to me and said, "You're so ignorant, why are you doing this?" It probably would have made me less open to whatever they were proposing in the first place. So, as you're talking about this, I know a lot of people want to share, and I think that's incredible. I think a lot of YouTubes come out of people, they have a genuine desire to share something that's worked for them. And I think that's positive, and I think it will work. I think people are getting the message, and I think people are changing their lives and trying different things out. But just be aware of the fact that if you try to take their freedom of thought away, if you try to take their journey to finding out why the carnivore diet might be the best diet for them away, you're going to push them away from it. You might push them away from being a healthier version of themselves and do the opposite of what you actually wanted to do. So that's the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video. And if you haven't listened to Vaclav Havel at all, if you haven't read that book, it might be a really good thing. It's not something you would think like, I'm doing the carnivore diet, I should look up these two people and read this book, and it might help. But I think the psychology of why we do what we do and how we get to where we go is of utmost importance. It's not just about calling yourself a carnivore and then what. So just wanted to mention that. And then There was another thing that I wanted to talk about also, just to do a little bit of a longer walk here and a little bit of a longer talk. And I'm going to expand on this in another video, but I think this is a good opportunity to just mention it as we're down this kind of psychological and philosophical path. One of the things that worked for me in this exploration of why am I doing carnivore? What is it going to do for my health? What is my family going to think? Or how am I going to live with my family while they're eating carbs and I'm not? One of the things that worked for me on carnivore was setting the diet. So it's a very simple diet. So it's beef, eggs, butter, sometimes cheese for blood sugar, for um, whatever use I may need to elevate my blood sugar or to last longer overnight. Um, Maybe some ghee instead of butter. So super simple. So I eat basically the same thing every day: beef, eggs, butter, salt, maybe some cheese. Once you set that diet, forget about it. Listen to your body, eat till you're satisfied, and then focus on every other aspect of your life: your family, your work, your spiritual life, your fitness, everything else. Go back and figure out why you did some of the things you did in the past in terms of eating, cravings. Was it really the food? What emotions were you satisfying when you binge ate or ate bad food and you knew it was not good for you? I've done it. I've done it a million times. As a type 1 diabetic, I've done it when I know what it's going to do to my blood sugar and I still do it. So, what are all those things that were triggers for you? What were the reasons for it? And then find ways to let all of it go. Improve the things that you want to improve and focus on those and let go of your diet. Stop thinking about how you can spice up your next meal. Stop thinking about keto recipes. Stop thinking about um, fancy textures and different tastes that you could possibly classify as carnivore or keto. All that, in my experience, is a slippery slope, and it means that you're ignoring the root causes of why you are where you are, whatever that might be. And again, once you free yourself from thinking about your diet and thinking about food as something you deserve, something that satisfies you because another part of your life was not satisfying, once you get out of that vicious cycle, you'll find that you've been ignoring other areas of your life that you can now focus all that energy on. So I heard a gentleman last week talking about, he was just making a common analogy about the memory in a computer, like the RAM in the computer, and you have all these programs open at the same time, and there's a limited amount of computer memory that can be allocated to all these things that are open. Well, if you're interested in the carnivore diet, and these are things that you're focusing on to get your health back, most likely that has taken up a huge amount of your memory, of your capacity to think. Constantly thinking about food, what my next meal is going to be, how can I make it tasty, what do I have to shop for? But now you can throw that all away. You can free up let's just say you can free up 50% of the mental resources you used to spend on food, whatever aspect it might be: buying food, cooking food, choosing what to eat, dealing with the consequences in terms of what it does to your stomach, what it does to your energy, all these things. You're freeing up all that. And everything that you've just freed, you can now use for things you've always wanted to improve upon or just sit and enjoy, but didn't have the resources to do it. You could spend more time with your kids. You can engage more with your family, with your husband, with your wife. You could be better at your job if your profession is something that you really love to do. It's not just a job, but you really love it, but you just couldn't focus. Now you can focus on that. you can give more of yourself because there's more there to give. All that you are giving to these addictions, to whether it be coffee or food or textures of food or just all these things, now you're free to give that up and focus on other things that are more important to you in your life and that might be more important for other people to have more of you. I think a lot of times people who focus on food or have troubles with food have this idea that they're not important to other people or that whatever they could fix isn't important. It's not, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to fix. You're not good enough to, people wouldn't enjoy being around you even if you freed up that time. You have these tapes that play in your head, and it makes it easier and easier to neglect yourself and to neglect others because you've made up in your mind that it's okay to do that. And I think I can tell you in almost every case, if you free up more of yourself to give to other people, you will find that other people missed you and that they want you back and that they want the whole you, not the distracted you, not the broken you, but the real you that's underlying all that other stuff. So I've gone on a bit on this video, and some people have actually told me that they want me to talk for a little bit longer and just kind of almost like a stream of thought. So I thought I'd try that out and see if it's helpful. I also, interestingly enough, had a friend who is not the touchy-feely type of person and doesn't know I actually do any of these kind of videos at all. But he actually told me today while we were talking about a different subject, he's like, you should really talk to people. You should really talk to people more often about just motivation and meaningful things. And I think I won't go into some of the things that I've done in the past, but I think there is a part of me that wants to go in that direction. I think I am going to go in that direction, both maybe on this channel and also another channel. And there's a part of me that also has discounted whether I can be of value to other people. Maybe I look at other YouTube channels or other speakers or whatever, and maybe some of the tapes that I have playing in my head from my childhood, from my experiences, have taken me off a path that I should have been for a longer time. So I think I am going to explore doing more varied videos, longer videos, and in the end, if people don't like the longer videos or the subjects or whatever, they can always skip forward or they can skip the entire video. I mean, I do that sometimes if I'm in a rush. I take what I can get, um, or take what speaks to me and fast forward through the other stuff. So I think I'm going to do that because I think I pay attention to, I call them serendipities, when some people call it providence, when things come together in a certain way and for no other apparent reason, it kind of is pushing you to a certain place. Maybe the carnivore diet is that for you. Maybe a YouTube channel is that for you. Maybe a new job is that for you. Maybe a romance, a new relationship is that for you. Maybe discovering something about yourself that is groundbreaking and changes your life just for you is that. So I'm just telling you that because this is not just like a empty philosophy for me, but I'm applying these things to myself also because I think carnivore diet has opened up this same thing for me, not having to think about my blood sugar all the time, feeling horrible all the time, being in pain all the time. I can share a little bit more with other people and maybe that will help. So I'm going to end it there. I hope you like, I'll just call it a carnivore walk and talk. I hope you like the walk and talk. And the comments are wonderful. Some of the comments, honestly, are inspiring and definitely make me want to keep going. So thank you for that. And if you can like and sub, share as much as possible to help these kind of spread and keep going, I would really appreciate it. So I will talk to you on the next one.